we're going to get excited about the love of God tonight. What do you think about that? Woo! Yeah! Come on, let's hear this. Where can we run? Yeah, let's stand up. Ooh. Where can we hide? Is there a place that we can go where you cannot find us? We're there when we fall, there when we rise. Nothing is hidden from your face. You know every breath we take. Your love has found us. Your love has found us. We are yours forever. Your love has found us. It's all around us, holding us together. Come on. Yeah. Nothing on earth, above or below, nothing in all the universe take us from your love. You came to us, made us your own. Now we will answer the call to come together, one for all. Your love has found us. Your love has found us. We are yours forever. Your love has found us. It's all around us, holding us together. Your love has found us. Your love has found us. We are yours forever. Your love has found us. It's all around us, holding us together. We will sing because your love has found us. Even in the darkest night, we'll sing because your love has set us free. We will sing because your love has found us. Even in the darkest night, we'll sing because your love has set us free. Your love has found us. Your love has found us. We are yours forever. Your love has found us. It's all around us, holding us together. Your love has found us. Your love has found us. We are yours forever. Your love has found us. It's all around us. We will sing because your love has found us. Even in the darkest night, we'll sing because your love has set us free. We will sing because your love has found us. Even in the darkest night, we'll sing because your love has set us free. Yeah.
Welcome, everyone.
All right. Good stuff, right? Great. Yeah. You know what you realize as a person presenting to a group of people is how much you sitting there reflects the energy in the room on the person presenting and the people singing. So you don't realize that. So if you look out in a room, you see a bunch of... It just sucks the life out of the presentation. So actually being a minister has made me quite increased my active listening tenfold. When I go to a presentation now, I actually engage with them. I look into their eyes and I go, yeah, and I feel what they're feeling. I want to be with them to make that experience as good for them as it is for myself. So, just a tip. All right. Let's get to our words of wisdom for today from our co-founders, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. This is Unity's Statement of Faith number 8. I did say I was going to do these in any particular order I decided to, so we're jumping to number 8. They say, we believe that divine intelligence is present in every atom of man and matter, that the more abundant life, which Jesus promised, is flooding the world and quickening the minds and the bodies of men everywhere and women. So the co-founders of our Unity movement, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, believed that the intelligence of God, a divine intelligence, permeates all things. Of course, this is probably not a new concept to most of us here. We've probably been exposed to this concept in some way or another. And we've likely drawn our own conclusions about what we think about this idea, whether we buy into it a little bit, a lot, whether we're wholeheartedly into it, whether we don't believe it at all. But regardless of whether we are into it or not, whether we're buying into this concept or not, it is an idea that I feel we take for granted. I think we assume that we get the gist of what this concept is without really shaking a stick at how vast this idea really is. I think we just sort of go, yeah, I get the gist of it, and we don't really take the time to realize how vast this concept really is, or how much of our focus it would require to even just begin to comprehend what it is saying. Maybe some of us have some sort of way that we've just sort of shrugged it off as some fringe spiritual mumbo-jumbo. We go, yeah, this is something that people say, divine intelligence is in all things, and we just sort of shrug it off and move about our day. Possibly because we have not actually experienced it in our own lives quite yet, or we haven't seen any evidence of it yet to back it up. Well, there is an article that was shared with me by one of our congregants just a few weeks ago, entitled, "Scientists now believe that the universe itself is conscious." Oh. Late breaking news. A new scientific concept has recently come to light, which scientists are calling panpsychism. Panpsychism says that the universe could be capable of consciousness, which could change everything. Would it really change everything? For some people, I believe it might, but for those of us who already recognize an intelligent universe, it would probably change basically nothing. Which parallels a conversation I was having with another congregant here at the church. We stumbled onto the topic of conspiracy theories and how they don't really interest either of us. We found a commonality in that we see no real value in the conspiracy theory world because whether the conspiracies are true or not, they wouldn't really change our lives at all. It wouldn't change how we're living. It wouldn't change our outlook. It wouldn't make us more positive or negative. It would just be. Suppose someone finally, unequivocally, was able to prove that the earth is in fact flat. My life would move forward exactly as it did when I experienced it as round. Do you understand where I'm going with this? I wouldn't have all of a sudden go, well, I'm not traveling anymore because I might fall off the end, right? I would realize, well, they've figured out a way for me to fly around already, so obviously they've got it worked out. My life would be basically entirely unchanged based on that concept. So many of us already know we live in an intelligent universe. So a discovery in support of that wouldn't really have any effect on us in the way we're doing things. But of course, it can be enjoyable to watch the intelligence of the universe being revealed in new ways, such as through the medium of science. As we saw in the work of Masaru Emoto, in this book, if you remember the book, Hidden Messages in Water, does everybody remember that book? Yes. About half of us do, yes? Well, this is what he has to say in that book, and if you're wondering why this screen's not on, 2 weeks ago the bulb blew out in that projector, and today it blew out in this projector. So, at least they're roughly timed right. Water is attempting to communicate something to us. Negative emotions prevent the water from crystallizing. Positive emotions allow it to develop in beautiful hexagonal shapes. Could you imagine that water doesn't just have intelligence, but it is actually attempting to communicate with us? I bet most of us haven't even really taken the time to wrap our head around that concept, that water has intelligence. We might go, okay, but it's actually attempting to communicate with us, which really points to our lack of intelligence and how we don't even try to listen, and we don't even know how to listen. If water is intelligent, and we know water makes up the bulk of so many things in this experience, including our own bodies, then all these things must carry that intelligence as well. If water is intelligent, and it's the primary element in most of the things we experience, then these things must have that intelligence as well. Even the Bible, believe it or not, points to the importance of water. This is Genesis. This is the very beginning. It says, "In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep, while a wind from God swept over the face of the waters. Then God said, 'Let there be light.' Before there was even light or anything with form whatsoever, before God created anything, there was water." Has anyone ever noticed that before in Genesis? Before there was anything, there was already water with God. Water was with God from the very onset of creation itself. Before anything else even existed, water was there. But this is not actually a talk about water. So if you're getting bored, I apologize. If you're getting thirsty, there are drinking fountains in the back. There will be tea in the bookstore after this to quench your thirst. So let's get back to the article for a second. According to Matloff, a physicist at New York City College of Technology, in his recently published paper, humans could be like the rest of the universe in substance and in spirit. Futurism reported that a proto-consciousness field could extend throughout all space. Basically, in layman's terms, the entire cosmos could be self-aware. This is good, because I appreciate that this article touches on the aspect of an intelligent universe that we most likely all fail to really understand. I think we get the basic concept of what is being said, that this intelligence moves in and through all things. But what I think we fail to really realize is that this intelligence is self-aware. Now, if you want to talk about something that could really change everything, as the article previously stated, it would be if we could actually understand the impact of the words self-aware.
So you guys are welcome to sing along with us. You know this one.
Dust in the wind, all they are is dust in the wind. Same old song, just a drop of water in an endless sea. All we do crumbles to the ground, though we refuse to see. Dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the wind.
slips away, and all your money won't another minute buy. Dust in the wind, all we are is dust in the wind. Dust in the wind. Everything is dust in the wind.
Song makes me feel like I have something in my eye. All right, we left off with a little bit of a teaser about the importance of the two words self-aware. In order to understand this concept fully, I think I need to take us back to the Pythagorean theorem. Does everyone remember this? Nobody remembers it. That's the problem. So we're going to go back to this so we can get a little refresher here. Now, of course, I have no idea what those little 2's are on the A and the B and the C. So just like I did every time I took a test, I just got rid of those 2's and just worked it without it. It always worked out fine. So we're just going to get rid of those little 2's, whatever those were. So if we are to accept what we have been stating thus far in this talk, then we can fill in A and B to help us solve this equation. A, divine intelligence is in all things. B, divine intelligence is self-aware. If both A and B are true, then we can solve for C. But this is the part where I think most people stop. They think those two things are it, and there is no C to solve for, no reason to go further with the equation. There is no result or conclusion that comes out of both A and B being true. But this equation has been left hanging if we don't take it to the next step. Which means we are not fully understanding what this concept means because we unknowingly walked away from the table before we solved the equation. We walked away without finding the conclusion, the result, and the most important part about this. The part that makes the two individual parts whole, which is this: all things are self-aware. If the divine intelligence is in all things, and divine intelligence is self-aware, then all things are self-aware. I always find it fascinating that we put ourselves on a pedestal as the only things that are self-aware in this physical experience. And we do this by judging the intelligence and the awareness of all the other things around us based on a standard we created from our own tiny, little, egotistical perception of what intelligence and awareness is. We take what we think we know and judge everything around us based on that concept. We humans do this all the time. We analyze other things we have no real understanding of. We analyze them based on what little understanding we have about ourselves as humans. And this situation sprang up in the podcast Radio Lab, which I enjoy listening to, in an episode in which, strangely enough, they were having a contest to find out what was the smartest animal on Earth. It was sort of a tongue-in-cheek thing they did. They had different contestants present their animal they thought was the smartest. And here is actually what the announcer said to preface why they were having this playful competition. Pat Walters said, "And so the reason that we're doing this is because a couple months ago, I ended up on the phone with this science writer I really loved named Dan Engbar. And Dan went on a rant about how messed up it is that we only seem able to talk about animal intelligence in terms of our own intelligence. He says so much of animal intelligence research is built on making animals do stuff that we feel like humans would be good at doing, instead of considering their intelligence on their own terms. It is embarrassing to be reminded how close-minded and ignorant and egotistical we can be as human beings. to be constantly evaluating the world around us with us at the center. We must be the most important thing that ever happened, so we'll compare all things relative to us, as if we know enough to be able to judge and evaluate anything from that point of view. How could we possibly know if anything else is self-aware unless we could sit as that thing? We have this great Native American saying, "Great Spirit, grant that I may not judge my neighbor until I've walked a mile in their moccasins." Until you have been that which you are analyzing, you cannot comprehend what that is. How can we possibly know how self-aware things are from our own limited awareness of awareness itself? We don't even really know what awareness is. And yet we're going to put out this test to find out what else is aware, right? We don't even know where consciousness is, let alone awareness. And we like to judge things based on our lack of information. So the intelligence of the divine is flowing through all things, and this intelligence is self-aware. That means that all things are self-aware according to how aware of this intelligence within them that they are. I once did a talk at Unity of Las Vegas about awareness itself. And I was really not feeling well the morning I gave that talk. But I dragged myself out of bed anyway, and I gave the talk because that's the kind of person I am. I like self-punishment. Or I'm committed, one or the other. I don't know what it is. Well, here's what happened. The talk flopped. And I know because a minister can tell when an audience is into it and when they're not. And that Sunday, they were not into it. But I put a lot of hard work into that talk, and I thought it was a really good one. So I was kind of upset that it didn't really go anywhere. So I concluded that it tanked because I wasn't feeling well, and I must not have given it the due energy it deserved. Therefore, about a year later, without telling them, I decided to give the exact same talk again, and it went over great this time. So I want to share with you this rendering I created to try to explain this concept. So this sort of cloud, bluish area at the top represents consciousness and awareness. We would assume that we are the only ones that really have connection to this ethereal or collective consciousness. But I like to assume that dogs are more conscious than any of us put together. Women are obviously more conscious than men. Men are about equal to a rock or a tree. That's where we fall. But that each of us have this access to consciousness, it's just about how aware of it we are, how much we realize we have access to this consciousness. And no one there really has a right to judge how aware or conscious the other one is, because from where they're standing, they are separate and apart and disconnected from consciousness altogether. We have no right to judge what is intelligent or unintelligent, what is self-aware or what is not self-aware, because as a collective humanity, we are largely unintelligent and unaware ourselves. So what right do we have to judge anything else, especially in contrast to divine intelligence, which is accessible to all things and in and through all things? Saying we are more self-aware than anything else only reveals our own limited understanding of awareness. Until my consciousness is elevated to such a high place that I can merge with the consciousness of that rock, I have absolutely no grounds for making judgments or claims about the rock's awareness or intelligence. I have no concept about the intelligence of a rock because I cannot merge my consciousness with that rock to understand where it's coming from. We have found that there's a consciousness in forests, that trees have a consciousness that moves throughout them, but it takes hundreds of years for a concept to unfold. It's moving so slow that we were not even perceiving it before, but we're finding out now that forests are making decisions over decades and executing them over more decades. And now we're really realizing the entire forest is self-aware and conscious. We just didn't understand the consciousness of which it was operating at and the speed at which it moved. It was imperceptible to us. but we're now becoming a little bit more aware. So everything in this experience that we are in operates by the perceptions and rules of its own game. I am not playing the same game as any other person, place, or thing, and therefore I cannot judge the game they are playing or anything else is playing. Not only would I need to walk a mile in their moccasins, I would really have to walk a lifetime in their moccasins. And quite possibly, I would have to walk all the lifetimes that that entity has ever lived. Now, I said if we really understand self-awareness, that would be the thing that actually changes everything. This is because it would mean we come to realize that everything knows how it is being treated. Just take that in for a second. Everything knows how it is being treated. This is a little off topic, but I grew up with 2 siblings. And my siblings did not treat automobiles the same way that I did. I took care of my cars. I loved my cars. I worked on them. I made sure they were clean, everything else. My sister and my brother, not so much. And they were plagued with cars breaking down, getting broken into, tires falling off, all sorts of problems constantly. But I babied my cars, and I loved my cars, and I took care of them, and I didn't have as many problems as they had. Probably because I was taking care of them, but the fact is that there is a consciousness there. There is a respect there. There's an element there. That's why people name their automobiles. There's a soul. There's a spirit there. So if you've ever heard of the tidy expert Marie Kondo, she actually lives this way with the awareness that everything is aware of how it is being treated. And she spoke to the Huffington Post in this article, which says this: according to Kondo, there's an element of animism ingrained in Japanese culture which believes every object has a soul. This idea is incorporated in expressing gratitude to your belonging for taking care of you, she said. If you are letting go of an item, giving thanks is also a way of properly saying goodbye, so that you can mark the end of your relationship with the item and release it without guilt. It's a way to recognize your relationship with your possessions. If we truly understood the idea of God being in and through all things, the divine intelligence in and through all things, it would have to change everything in our lives. And if it hasn't, that means we don't really get it yet. Because how we interact with everything would have to be a mindful process of reverence, respect, and gratitude. It would have to be. If we truly understood the divine intelligence permeating all things, we would have to have a respect and reverence and gratitude for everything. I would no longer treat things based on the value that I have assigned to it. I would have to treat everything according to the inherent value already within it. I would have to rise the way I treat things. I would have to elevate the way I treat things to the level that it deserves, just for the fact that it exists and it's a part of the divine plan. And that is the truth as I experience it. Thank you.
Holly, holy eyes, dream of only me. Where I am
I believe in. Holly holy, holly holy dream, wanting only you. And she come, and I run just like the wind will. Holly holy, sing a song, sing a song of songs, sing it out, sing it strong, sing, yeah, yeah. Call the sun in the dead of the night, and the sun gonna rise in the sky. Touch a man who can't walk upright, and that lame man, he gonna fly, and I fly, and I fly. Holly, holy love, take the lonely child, and the seed, let it be full with tomorrow. Holly holy, sing a song, sing a song of songs, sing it out, sing it strong, yeah, yeah. Call the sun in the dead of the night, and the sun gonna rise in the sky. Touch a man who can't walk upright, and that lame man, he gonna fly, and I fly, and I fly. Holly, holy dream, dream about only you. Holly, holy sun, holly, holy rain, holly, holy love.
Okay. Well, we do encourage giving and serving here at Unity of Boulder. If you've never been here before, this is a movement that is run entirely by the gratitude and the giving of the people involved here. This entire movement is a worldwide movement. There are over 500 Unity churches around the world that are participating with us in this experience. And so we do this service as a way to ignite and inspire the giver within you to do what comes naturally, which is to release the floodgates of the dams that we've made in our own lives, blocking the prosperity from flowing through, because we are supposed to be a conduit of the divine abundance flowing into this universe. So we create this service to help you break through those floodgates, to open up, to allow yourself to give accordingly to how you've received from this experience in this world. And we have many ways to do that. If you want to give digitally, we do have text to give. We have the Easy Tithe app. We do have recurring giving. If you're watching us online, we invite you to join us in this process through these several ways of giving. We also have baskets in the back for the traditional way if you want to be a part of that on your way out. So now we've been up, I want to take us down a little bit into the silence to rest into this experience of this message that we've heard today, to take it deeper. If you're comfortable, you can close your eyes, begin to settle in, and begin some internal reflection.
This world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is more than enough. Inside there is peace, inside there is joy, inside there is sacred love. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this life as it is, go inside.